I see. It's so funny how many people I see though, and they even recognize me with my mask on. I don't know what that says about me, but
Okay, folks, what we're going to do is we're going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to what is today? The March? Oh, I'm sorry.
April.
Believe it or not.
April 12th, 2021, Town Council Communication Committee meeting. I call this meeting to order. Item number 2, roll call. Tracy, can we get the roll call, please?
Yep. Oh, I have the wrong one. Council Katarina,
I'm here.
Council Anderson,
Here.
Councilor Johnson.
I'm here. Thank you very much. Item number 3, the approval of the March 8, 2021 meeting minutes. I'm sure you all read and scrutinized. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Tracy, could you call the roll, please?
Council Anderson,
Yes.
Council Katarina,
Yes.
Council Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Short note, I'm going to make an adjustment to the agenda. Trying to keep the agenda a little short because Councilor Anderson is on the Finance Committee in this very important time of budget season. So trying to give him a little time to decompress from this meeting, get his thoughts together, and roll into the Finance meeting. So we're going to try to get out of here 5:15. But I do have to make an adjustment to the agenda. So what I'd like to do is after item number 5, which is a discussion on the community survey process and timeline, I'd like to add an action item to the town council to give us the blessing to move forward with this endeavor. And what we'll do is have Liam draft that up. Okay, so can I get a motion if everybody agrees, a discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay,
Sounds good.
take the vote, please, Tracy.
Council Anderson,
Yes.
Council Katarina,
Yes.
Council Johnson.
Yes, thank you very much. Item number 4. This is going to be, Allison is going to be graciously give an overview of the tools that we have available to us for, number 1, a pulse survey, which is typically a 1 question up or down, and the jot form survey tools. And then after that, we can ask questions of Allison if we need clarity, and then we can have a general discussion. So I'll turn it over to you, Allison. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've been talking about this for a while now, but I thought seeing it laid out visually would be helpful just for comparison's sake. And Liam saving the day here by presenting for me, so I don't mess anything up. So this is just focusing on the 2 that you mentioned, but for the sake of lining them all up and comparing, I put the community survey, the bigger one, in there too, just so we can see the distinction more clearly. So the pulse, I've been calling it a poll just because that's what our email platform calls it, and it really is, it's just a quick yes or no question. So that one's for just the e-newsletter, and I'll show you what that looks like on the next slide. And then the middle one, the digital survey, is kind of like, I've seen it on a few other municipal websites too. It's really a tool to garner some community feedback. And we mentioned doing so in like a quarterly way where it's an extended time period, and it's a way to kind of support actions that are happening in town council or just being talked about at that time in Scarborough. And so that could be a good way to really hear from the town and get more of a sense that can be used more in decision making. And that would go out through social media and the website and just the normal promotional tools that we use. And then lastly is the one that we'll switch gears to, and I won't focus on for this, but just that community survey that would be developed by an external consultant, mailed, and the focus is more on really trying to get as many responses as possible from residents. And it would be more on a specific topic or topics and not as much on a rotation of topics that we decide from based on the time frame. So for the next slide, just to give you a visual of what that pulse poll looks like, because this is something you haven't seen before because we've never done it, but Constant Contact has, I kind of just like click and drag different sections into the email. And so they have one called a poll, and it's very simple. I can't even customize it or change how it presents itself here, but it's basically, I type in what the question is, and then I can type up to 10 answers. So for this case, I did 3, but we've also been talking about the yes, no, not sure type of question too. And also with this, important to note is that you click on your answer if you choose to participate, and it brings you to just a website that says thank you for your response, but you don't see any sort of results, and none of you would see the results unless I would see it after I send out the email, and I would see them come in through Constant Contact, and then I could share that with you. One
Yeah.
thing I did this.
Hey, Allison, can I ask a
Yeah.
quick question?
No problem.
What is it just not possible to get the same poll on the website, and that the e-news is just the only channel to use it, or is there a reason why you're suggesting it's just on the e-news?
It's just on the e-news because it's a section within the e-news, if that makes sense. Like it's just part of this platform. But the next one I'll show you is a survey that, like Google Forms, like that we use. It's a survey that I could embed within the e-news, and that could also just be one question. But the way that this looks right now is just part of the structure of an e-newsletter. I could take that same question and put it in a different survey platform that we put out in other areas. But the reason I put that there's no follow-up or cross promotion is because it just lives within the email like this.
Right, that's Constant Contact, correct? And
Right.
we use our e-news through Constant Contact, so it's an add-on. So that's why it's coupled with e-news, John.
Okay.
One thing, I did this a few times with my previous organization, and I did not get the level of engagement that I thought we would. And it might have been based on the types of questions, but that's why I indicated that it's appealing as someone, as a user, a reader, to see that the town is trying to engage and that we're asking them questions, but to really get feedback and try to get an answer to what we're interested in knowing more about, I don't think this would be the best way to do it, just because I just don't expect there to be high participation. We can move on to the next one unless anyone has more questions about the e-news one. Okay, so I think this is where we should focus our efforts for more of the really trying to get a sense of the feedback on a certain topic. For this case, I just put communication survey, but I know that we have a number of other ones that we've been talking about and you've been talking about in council. So I put 5 to 10 minutes to complete. I imagine that would range depending on what the topic is and how in depth you want to go. But what you have been mentioning, that's totally true, is that if the longer it gets, less people are going to participate in it. So I see the value of keeping it short. So the town uses Jotform, as a platform for doing forms, surveys. The one that we made the contact form last fall for the certain committees, that's through Jotform. So that's very customizable, and our webmaster has done a good job with making templates and making that look nice. And it can also be something that it's just a URL link, so we can put it on the website, we can put it on social media. There's a lot of ways to promote it throughout all of the platforms that we use. So basically it would just look like it's just like Google Forms or another platform that you would use. So it's a little more robust than the Pulse poll on the email. But
Allison, can I just make one quick comment? So I know that Google Forms because I think that this was actually the previous iteration of the committee. We had some conversations, and Brian Butler actually came on and talked a little bit about Jotform. Jotform just has a greater ability to do analytics behind the scenes, which is why we prefer this over like a Google Form or a SurveyMonkey. They really did, I think Brian, took the lead, but really did some good research on what the various options were. And this is one that, again, I think Allison, you have probably some expertise in this at this point, but that was really the reason why JotForm. So just, SurveyMonkey, JotForm, Google Forms, all similar functions, but we think this one has a superior analytics component.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also just moving forward with JotForm, because it was decided on as the platform for the school and the town, so it would just make it consistent across all the forms that we use. But Liam, if you click on that image, I did a quick draft, and it gives a sense of how you can structure it. So for this case, I broke it out into sections. Demographic, because we had talked about that we would come up with like 5 set questions that we would ask on all forms. And I don't know if that would go in the beginning or the end, but just so you can see kind of the structure of what this looks like. And then this is getting a little long, but it just shows that you can select multiple or individual types of questions we would ask, ability to write in your own answer. And then at the end, I think we should always have like a comment box just for getting additional feedback. So this is something too that Brian has more background in doing this, but I think that we'd be able to set it up that of seeing who gets the responses to them. So you would all have access to the responses, or you could have them emailed to you, things like that. So they're definitely, this is very customizable and something that I could see us using either in like the town news page of our website or in its own page called surveys that we rotate quarterly or whatever we decide. But yeah, so that's just a quick overview of those 2 options. And like I said, I didn't get into the community survey. I know that's next on our agenda, but it kind of just shows the differentiation between a pulse survey, pulse poll on an email, and then more of a robust survey that is still digital. Something else we should keep in mind too is how someone who's not as tech savvy or on our website would have the same access to this if they wanted to. It might skew our results a little bit otherwise. Anyone have questions on this JotForm platform?
I don't have a question. I mean, I just have a comment. I mean, like anything that's done where the reader or user selects whether or not to do the survey, and it's not scientific. So, I mean, you get a broader return, I would think. I mean, you're getting, how do I want to put it? You have the capability of getting more information than the pulse survey. So in those respects, it's helpful. But again, it's sort of like, just to remind people, it's not like having a consultant who sits down and does that was good English, does a professional survey, that weighs, all the factors that need to be weighed to make it scientific. So
Right.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
people
guess-
filling it out are seeing it through a certain avenue that might influence why they're filling it out.
Okay, go ahead, John.
I think, Allison, you brought up a good point towards the end about, if we have this survey, it might only be available online. I'm just wondering, and again, if we really do get to like a quarterly cadence where we plan ahead and know what we're surveying in advance, would we want to like have printed versions available at town hall that we collect or people can do too, for those who probably aren't online or aren't looking online? Just something to consider. I don't know if we want to go that far, but then it kind of addresses the, people who are coming in and out who might just want to quickly take it while they're there waiting in line. Just having them available could be something we could do.
I think that would be important. I mean, if it's a big enough topic or a survey that we're really wanting to get a lot of feedback on, and we're pushing out as part of a campaign, like how we have this whole budget communications plan and timeline. Like if we're going through that level of effort for something, then we might as well go the extra mile and make it available from in print or at the town hall or something like that. If it's the
I guess
right
the
type
only-
of survey.
Yeah, and I guess the only challenge there would be somebody would probably then have to like take all those paper forms and input them somewhere so that they're being
True.
captured.
Yeah,
That's the challenge.
I will say that I think there have been times when, again, I think Larissa at one point had set up the ability to do just an online survey, but with sort of different. This was pre-COVID, so there wasn't as much concern around higher traffic volume, and also not so much concern around shared surfaces. But walking out of exit polls, walking out of people voting in person, absentee, having a laptop set up for people to just take a quick survey if they wanted to. So that's certainly another option that we could explore. Having a portal set up in Excise with, while you're waiting, have it almost on the wall. They could fill out the survey if they wanted to. So I think that as we tried to organize this discussion, and Ken, I don't know if you want me to chime in at this point, but I think we really see the pulse survey as there's so many opportunities as the council has an issue brought forward where there's lots of discussion at the council level, but it's kind of new. And there seems to be this interest to say, well, what do we think the community thinks? And so having this be like a ready every other week, there's an opportunity to send something out. It's not going to be definitive. And I think as we all can appreciate, we're not looking for a robust, refined policy decision to be voted on. It's simply, here's an issue in town. What are your thoughts? Do you support this? Do you support a community center in town if the taxpayer, something that's, and even with something like that, it requires some refinement. And then the job form survey really, again, you look at what the council has on there, and we're sort of speaking at this through the lens of the council, but look at what you have on your docket right now. I mean, you have growth management, you have comp plan, you have all these things that probably in a 10 or 15 minute survey, you could get some really good data input on where people are at. And so having that kind of come through the official channels and things like that, I think there's some value to it. So those are sort of the resources we have, the tools we have ready-made, ready to deploy.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I think there's all kinds of opportunity for use. But like you said, initially, these are not policy decision tools. They're more of a pulse or a sense. However, I look at them as, gradually rolling out to be more robust to where they could actually become a policy decision tool. I mean, if we could get a good turnout on certain things, at least we would have, some pretty in-depth insight. So speak of the numbers now, just on the e-news, okay, I think we've got about 2,200 subscribers. You say we got about a 50% open rate. So is that what you say?
Yeah, sometimes it's a little higher than that. Like for the budget guide, it was 50%.
So does that mean it comes into my email box and I delete it, I never open it, but it, correct? If I don't open it. Is that what that means?
I would know. I get a list of who's opened it.
Okay.
And how many times they've opened it.
Okay. So even that way, again, initially, 2,200, if we get a 50%, that's 1,100 people. If you get 10% out of that, maybe that's 100 people. Again, doesn't drive policy, but I think it would expose potential for everybody, which then could drive the initiative to really promote. If we do an e-newsletter item, we could always just end it with a pulse thing, even if it's not a survey, just an awareness of a pulse thing. We could do it in the know. We could do it through the Facebook. So I think there's a lot of potential in there. Now, we talked about it. I would actually like to see us agree on doing something with it, something real benign, meaning benign, probably poor choice of word, but nothing earth-shattering, more of a curiosity factor. Somewhere between now and the last, what's next month? May, the last May e-news, which is May 15th, correct? So that's a month away.
Okay.
Would you, and again, this is staff, if we came up with a question, we meaning either the committee or the council, is that enough time to get something ready as just, it's a test market?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No problem.
So is there interest on the committee to pursue that, Jean Marie? Are you chuckling at me or is your husband making faces at you in the back?
No, I threw him out because he's too loud. I'm chuckling a little bit because I in my little evil brain was thinking a question that we could ask that's got a yes or no answer is, do you pay attention to the budget?
Right. Or something to that. Do you follow?
Do you
the
pay?
budget?
Yeah.
So,
Do you
you know,
follow what's going with the budget? Because you'd be
really-
amazed how many people don't have a clue. They have no clue.
Right. Well, the emails are starting. They started today, and John Anderson, hold on to your seat because we're gonna get them, especially after first reading.
Yeah,
So-
first reading we'll get them after that.
Get them. Because again, I'm just talking off the cuff here. I wonder, because I look at this, and I really want a discussion on this because we either have to agree or disagree. I look at this committee is just the driver of this. Everything is either maybe not voted on by the council, but at least a consensus vote by the council. If we came up with a question, if time allows, matter of fact, we could talk to the council about it. Maybe something comes up and time is not allowed, but is not available for us to get to the council for a consensus vote. Can we empower ourselves to move out with a question? I don't see that as an issue, but again, that would be a discussion with the town council.
Well, if I could ask Allison, Allison, how long does it take? I would think a pulse vote would be pretty easy to get up there, right? Because you're putting together the email. I mean, we
Yeah,
know
it's
when
just
that's
part of
going
it.
out.
Right.
So that
Yeah,
would be
very
pretty
fast.
easy. That would be, you can do pretty much last minute, so to speak.
Yep.
It's the other one that would take a little more crafting.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Coming up with the right questions, the right
Right.
length, the right standard questions that would go on it.
I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity, at least for the Pulse piece, right, to think about both the charter and the Downs committees, if there's anything that they would have interest in pulsing, just knowing it's like a short yes or no. Charter, maybe not, but maybe on the downtown committee, there might be some questions that might be coming. I don't think they have them right now,
Hmm.
but I could see them maybe for the
Right.
May 15th
But you're
having
right.
something.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You're right. They might not have something right now, but you being on that committee could make them aware, or at least the chair,
Mhm.
and feedback. Because I think, right, I think there's a lot of, and that's why I think there's going to be some kind of formalized, informalized process.
Yeah.
Because I think once we institute it or implement it, there's people who realize the opportunity. Individual councilors will have their own ideas, maybe some of our committees, the department head, definitely the town. The council doesn't own this, or this committee doesn't own this. It's joint venture. So,
Because one of the things that actually would have been interesting in the last e-news, where I wrote about the committee's kind of draft recommendation about the grandstand, I think would have been to poll people,
yeah,
like, do you think the grandstand should stay, or do you think,
yeah,
like, do you care? And
Right.
yes or no, I think would just have been interesting. Again, knowing that it probably wouldn't have been everybody's feedback, but just to kind of give back to the our committee to say, hey, you guys are on the right track. Like, based on your assessment, based on what was in the article, people generally agree we should keep the grandstand. So keep going down that path.
okay.
yeah. And I think connecting it to articles makes sense.
Mhm.
Since you say
Right.
that, if something comes up that we know an article's coming out, do a little pulse poll right at the end of the article.
Yeah.
Yep. Or drive them to, right. That's right. You can, especially with e-news, right? They can just tap the link
Right.
in the article.
Right.
Allison,
So-
can you do multiple post polls in one e-newsletter?
Yeah.
Well, that's-
Oh, cool.
that's
So, you could have a
interesting.
counselor corner, again, not every article is going to lend itself to wanting that
Right.
kind
Right.
of up or down straightforward answer, but certainly there's the opportunity to structure
To do more than
counselor
one.
for that input. Yeah. I think John.
Like
did
that
it-
one I just, oh, I'm sorry, like that one I just drafted, Allison, that you guys looked at today. Pulse poll question, do you believe Jean Marie or not?
Yeah.
Do you trust
Well,
Jean
Do you
Marie? I
trust
think
Do you
that's-
Jean
trust Jean Marie?
Then we blow it up on that one. By the way, side note, I want to thank Jean Marie for stepping on that. Because remember, we committed always to get 2 articles out in the e-news and 1 to the letter. John Clucci was doing 1 on the budget. So I personally thought we were covered. I forgot about the special edition. Okay. And if somebody hadn't stepped up, I was going to default to that being it. So
Yeah, I was
thank you.
wondering that too.
But I still would have, not felt quite right about that. So
Yeah.
thank you, Jean Marie.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. I did it while I was watching the Masters, so it gave me something to
You
do.
do it easy. You do it easy. It's not that easy for a lot of folks. So we don't meet again until May. I don't have the calendar in front of me. Do
May
we?
10th.
May 10th. So that actually is enough time to, at least from a committee and a council perspective, to poll individually or whatever on a possible first pass council up or down type question. Do folks agree with that? John, Jean Marie? Okay, because we can move on. Again, I'm in the interest of time. So we're going to have that as a agenda item next time around to discuss the question and approve the, we'll flush that up. So then number 5, this is a discussion on the survey process and the timeline. I'm going to let Liam tee it up. And then again, we're going to have the following agenda item to bring forward to the council as a result of this. Okay.
Sure. So just to kind of recap the conversation we had last week, I think that there seems to be some interest in doing a more expansive community survey, or I think Councillor Johnson, this is your position and proposal, to do an expansive community survey in the fall. Historically, this is one that we've done almost every 10 years. I believe that the one in 2000 was predominantly on growth. And then we've had a subsequent survey with 2010 and maybe 1990 that was more services based. Is that, or do I have that mixed up, Ken? Is it growth in 90 and 2000 and then services in 2010?
Yes.
Okay.
No, the other way around. Services in 2010,
Yep.
growth in 2000.
Okay. So I think that there's certainly interest in doing something. This would be one where historically, I think to Councillor Anderson's suggestion, this was one that was largely paper, mailed to homes for response. I certainly expect that there would probably be an opportunity to do a hybrid electronic and possibly some mailings. But in terms of a process, I think what we had envisioned was in the May meeting, having someone with a background in surveying, specifically kind of community or municipal surveying, come and meet with the group at a regular meeting to kind of talk about things we should be looking at. I think the sense I got was we'd be looking for something that certainly looks at growth and development in town, perhaps also touches on services, touches on, I think that that's really going to be the exercise we go through is what are we looking for feedback and input from our community. There's a lot of things that have happened in the last 10 years. And so I think that I'd like to have I propose that we have a consultant kind of come in and have a conversation with us about what we should be looking for, what other communities are doing. And then have that work kind of filter into an RFP, which is then put out for professional firms to bid on. Again, I know that we have some finite resources in this regard. We may need to talk about, again, being in the budget process, whether we need to, bolster those resources depending on what the scope is going to be. But the goal would be to have, I think, an RFP to review then maybe in June and see, there might be some need for some special meetings. I know the summer is usually when we're light on committee work. I already can see your eyes on me, Jean Marie. But I think workshopping and finalizing an RFP to get out and then hopefully roll this out in the fall. But I think the next step is really have someone come in, talk with the committee about what you should be thinking about, look at some examples and line up that work for some RFP and decision making.
Right.
Does that sound like a good synopsis, Councillor Johnson?
Yes, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. What would actually be interesting, and maybe this would come out through the consultant, and I want to say one of you guys might have said this last time, maybe that's why I'm thinking of it. Is there a way we can also benchmark ourselves compared to other communities. I don't know if there's a certain survey provider that, you know, like when I think of some surveys, like for employee engagement and stuff, there's some that are like standard questions that are asked so you can benchmark yourself against others, which just gives you a different view of how you're actually performing. Because like, say we go down the path of doing a services satisfaction survey and, you know, we think it looks low, but then when we compare that particular service to a similar service in other towns, it's actually high. It's just a low service area that often scores low. I just feel like that type of context would be really helpful if we go down the services path, just so that we know, like, not only where do we rank within ourselves, but how do we rank compared to others?
Yeah, I think that's a great comment. I guess the thing I just say is that there is one provider that I think does use International City Managers Survey, and so there's sort of a municipal background. I think that we're going to try to set up a introductory kind of overview meeting with Councillor Johnson sometime in the next few weeks with the help of Karen Martin. So again, not saying that that's the path, but I think that makes some good sense, and perhaps they can speak to that.
Right. Liam, I just want to clarify something, because when I hear consultant, I think dollar signs, okay? And just again, so to everybody on the same page, we have X amount of money in the budget for survey, because this has been talked about for 3 years. And thanks to our good friend, Councillor Jean Marie Caterina, she kind of forced it into the budget about 3 years ago. And what we've done is, because we weren't ready to use it, we've tried to preserve it. And last year was a tough year to preserve it, because we were definitely going to relinquish those funds to assist with the tough challenges and the decisions that we had to make, if needed. And fortunately, you know, things didn't turn down as bad as we kind of anticipated, so we did get to preserve it. So we have X amount of money, and want to, and if we want to roll this out in the fall or in the middle of budget, I don't see how we could get commitments for additional monies between now and then. So even this survey may be scaled down a little bit. I mean, we can have the folks that we bring in tell us, but somebody that you had in mind, would that be a pro bono, or is that a true consultant?
Yeah, let me qualify that. So the name that I had just a short period of time to touch base with Karen Martin last week. She referred me to, or suggested maybe someone at the Muskie School who I would like to hope to come in and have an informal conversation during a regular meeting. Just plant some seeds and give us some things to think about, not usher us through an RFP process or sort of official.
That would be free. That's good.
That's the hope. Yeah.
I would suggest that we do put a line item in the budget. It doesn't hurt to do it, because it's due. It's way overdue to do some sort of a community, you know, where is the community at this point, and have it done professionally. I mean, that was my argument 2-3 years ago. And I hate to sound glib about this, but you know, another $15,000, $20,000 is not much when you're looking at a budget the size we have.
Right.
But especially if you can show what the outcome is and how the outcome would be worth making that investment, and to sell it to other councilors, it's an investment in the future of the town, and directions that we could be going. I'm wondering if we should be doing something right. And we need to do it now with the budget. So,
John?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I agree with Jean Marie. We should probably put something in. I'm just wondering if the two that you guys were referencing that took place before, if those are just good budget estimates, probably need to factor in things like inflation, because I'm sure prices have gone up. But if we're going down that path of like a broader scale survey where we probably want to do paper, some other things.
Yeah, it costs money.
We might want to just
surveys.
Look at those old numbers to see and make sure that gets in the budget.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think ideally, that it probably should become policy that we do this every 5 or 10 years. That way, there's always the foresight to have it in the budget when you need it in the budget. Because if you look at what came out of the 2000, the big survey, I call it the big survey. there was a lot of policy decisions made on that, a lot of them, and a lot of them, and there was trends because it was a 10-year average year over decade, and we saw the changes. So we're 20 years beyond that, and
Mhm.
town has changed dramatically. So you're right. I mean, I think it's worth the investment if it's a reasonable investment.
Mhm.
So I don't know if we address that in the action item that we bring to the council to, what do you think? How do we do that? How do we get something in the budget? Because you're right, it's the time to do it is now. We have X amount. Should we just ask for the same amount so we have double the amount? And go within the parameters of that amount? The vendor I spoke to told me to do a full-blown community survey, our size. Matter of fact, they actually did the one in 2000.
Yeah.
Told me he thought it'd be anywhere between 15 and 25.
That's what I was gonna guess. I was gonna guess actually closer to 30, but I'm thinking in the political world, political polling, so.
And what he told me, and again, this is just one vendor, would have to go out with an RFP, although I really do like to go back to folks that have done something that we were satisfactory with in the past, so at least they have an even shot. Said that for municipalities, they actually do several things within the survey methods free of charge. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that was a selling tool, sounded sincere to me. So
Mhm. And I don't know if there's any grant money or anything out there either for municipalities to be doing stuff. Of course, that would take, I'd rather just see it in the budget, but then we could search for grant money,
right.
backfill if we needed, yeah.
Jean Marie, I think you brought it up last time when we talked about this, that GP cog, like, do they offer anything too, or do we get something
I don't
part of
remember.
our relationship with them that's free, or I don't know.
Oh, it
I
wouldn't
don't know,
be, it
Liam.
wouldn't be free. We do pay a membership fee, but
Yeah,
nothing's free in this world, especially when it
true.
comes to surveys. But I mean, it's something to worth asking. I forget, I used to be the GP cog person, but I'm not, so I can't remember who's appointed to GP cog.
I think it's
John
Paul.
Tucci.
Is it John?
I think it's John and Paul, I think.
Yeah, okay, that
Oh,
makes
both
sense.
of
Because
them.
I think there we have 2 liaisons for them.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was always two. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about the budget on the action item that we're gonna form next for the council, see if we can wiggle room that in there. But back to the timeframe, Liam,
Mhm.
because I definitely agree. I think, because again, the best way to get things done is to, continue to discuss, but put some milestones down to
Right.
move the ball forward. And I think fall ends on December 20th. Okay. So we should be able to get something done between April and December for a survey. Even if it's not rolled out in December, maybe, if it depends on the year, this is something you don't want to do in July because of summer vacation, something you don't do in September because of school, coming back on board. So we'll let the consultant help us make all those decisions. So a good step is to get the quasi consultant in here as soon as possible. Do you think we can do that before the next meeting, Liam? In May?
Well, I would like to, so again, I think those other organizations that you brought up, I think I would like to reach out to. And again, we're trying to see, we're really just trying to get our bearings about us, right?
Right.
And what we're doing, what we should be thinking about, what the process is, who the vendors are. And
Right.
again, for the purpose of the budget, I think so it sounds like you already have that, Councilor Johnson, an estimate of, 15 to 25 is probably a more realistic figure. So I think that, to shore up the funding for this initiative, I think probably does need to come into the conversation from a budget standpoint. But so GBCOG, we could certainly reach out to in the next, this week. We can send an email and say, what do you know about municipal community surveys? MMA, again, is always one that we want to make sure we ask the question. And then again, we can reach out to the Muskie School and find out what they have. But I think trying to line someone up to talk to this group on the May 10th meeting, I think should absolutely be our goal.
Okay.
And I
Hey,
think
if you want,
know-
I can reach out to Eric Conrad at MMA if you want. We actually have, he's the head of communications for Maine Municipal.
Yep.
I've got him because I've spoken with him before. So I'll take that. I'll reach out with Eric, see if he's got any recommendations, okay? And just to let the other committee members know, through Liam's help, what he's done is taken that massive 2,000 survey, the large survey, and turned it into a doc form for me. I'm going to send it back because what I would like to do is I already have the questions from the 2010 services survey, and then pull out, extract out of this the questions from the 2000 survey, which were the exact same questions they used in 1990. All they did was add 2 because certain dynamics had changed, so they added a couple. Everything else stayed the same. That's why it was a great trend analysis. So I'm gonna pull those together and get them in a doc sheet just to share, and maybe have that discussion when we get to, I don't know, with the consultant or the next step after the consultant, say, hey, this is what we've used before. What's still relevant? You know, what should we add? Give that also to the council so they can see it, feed it, and then spark thoughts on what kind of topics are people thinking about? What do they want to know? So we're starting to gather that in the background. I'll definitely share it as it comes, as it becomes a little bit more solid. But yeah, John, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say too, maybe one of the things as we bring this action forward, maybe we give some options around what the objectives of the survey could be, because we talked about 2 surveys, one that focused on growth, one that focused on services. I guess the question that I would have around this is like, what is the intended objective for this survey? And what do we actually want to do with the results? You know, because again, I like the idea personally of just keeping it relatively simple and using it just as like almost like a typical satisfaction survey to understand general satisfaction by department.
Right.
Like that could be like one very specific objective of what we want to do.
Right.
And that would be one survey, or it could be, you know, maybe it's something that the council leverages to really inform council goal setting for the next year for big policy things we want to tackle.
Right.
And so again, I think they're 2 separate objectives. And so we could use different objectives as a starting point for conversations to say, we could use it for this, we could use it for this, we could use it for this. And we just need to come to a common consensus of what is the primary objective we want this survey to accomplish, and then partner with whoever it is and develop the RFP to make sure that we're, you know,
That's right.
drafting
I
it to
agree.
meet that objective.
And again, I'm assuming that a consultant, AKA consultant that is well-versed with surveys can help us work through that. What are the objectives? Should it be single? Could it be multiple? How do you do that? Because actually the 2000 and the 1990 survey also did have satisfaction by department in it. It was just much more robust. And I think it was either time or money. In 2010, we wanted to pulse again or survey again, but they only did the satisfaction component of it. You know what I mean? So it was consistent, but good point. And again, I think this is why we need somebody that knows what they're doing. If we can tell them what we want to know, they can guide us on how to get there. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a good point.
So to the item of the action item, Liam will do it. It's an action item because we want to vote from the council. Help me. This is what I'm thinking. Number 1, a vote from the council will either be a blessing or a rejection of a survey in general by the fall, right? I don't know if we build the budget in that action item, or would that have to be a second action item? can we frame it within the action item to do, for the communications committee to work through a community survey to be implemented by the fall with budget dollars XYZ? I don't know. So I cannot frame action or even non-actions. How do we do it, Ms. Parliamentarian?
So I guess I would think that the action would be something along the lines of authorize the communications committee to undertake an RFP process for the purposes of conducting a community survey in the fall of 2021.
That's it in a nutshell, right there. And cut, final, wrap.
I think the budget component, I think, does need to become part of the finance committee discussions around, again, we're going to start
Okay.
reducing and adding. I just think that there needs to be I don't think that needs to be something that the council at this point is officially
Okay.
authorizing because we haven't formulated it yet. So
Good point. So
Yeah, I mean, if we were in the legislature, you'd have a fiscal note attached to it. But we don't do that at this level, so.
So John, being in the finance committee and part of this community, you can just lead that discussion, correct? Or introduce that topic in the
Yep.
discussion? Okay.
Yep, as we go forward. I mean, would this technically, where does the current $10,000 fall in the budget? Just to kind of call it out specifically, is
It's-
it coming out of executive?
It's been appropriated. It's sitting around in some account technically. I don't know where.
Just sitting in an account, it's there. And by the way, I do believe our town manager sits on the finance committee meetings also.
Yeah,
And
I can ask him.
pleased to say, and I felt real pleased when he said, that he is definitely behind this, he supports
Oh,
this. So he will definitely help maneuver all that. And if you have questions about where that other money is, I'm sure he can tell you. We've just been assured that it is still available. All it takes is an action from the council to actually spend it, appropriate it, right?
And yeah, and I'd like to see us go for at least 15,000.
Additional.
Mhm. So
keep
we've
it-
got 25.
Great. And Liam, that action item sounded perfect.
So
So,
we watched the tape and remember what I said.
yes. No, don't worry, I got the notes.
I'm just kidding. I'm scribbling right now. I'm good.
Okay, moving on then. Item 6A. Again, I want to be mindful of John. What do we get? 10 minutes. We're good, I think. And it's might not be that critical for this time, but feedback from the committee members. Because again, I think this is just the way I think, but it's just me, and I'm only one member of this committee. I really think between now and the end of the year, we drive these survey tools, the community survey, the pulse survey, help flesh out the jot form survey and focus on articles, 2 articles a month for the e-news and the leader. I think that's going to be a full enough agenda for our monthly meetings. I don't think we need to add anything more. And it may get down to we're meeting just an hour and we're determining which is line item 6, which is the e-news and the leader topics for the following time period of the meeting. Okay. And again, John, I know you brought up because to track it, we need some kind of tracking mechanism.
Mhm.
Okay. So I think it's a good idea. Let's talk about it next. I don't think we need it right now, just in the interest of time, but let's definitely bring it forward to the next meeting about a tracking mechanism. And then a commitment by somebody on the committee, and I'll commit if nobody else wants to, is during counselor comments at the end of each council meeting, if the committee has come up with ideas for topics or has focused on a topic, we'll elicit volunteers to do it. But if we can't get one, and again, I understand it, at times, schedules and not everybody likes to do it, then we'll commit to doing it. And again, I'll be the fall guy. If everybody just gets so busy or nobody wants to touch the subject, I'll be the fall guy. Because I feel I can almost do anything with Allison beside me.
Well, I was gonna
I-
say, because I think if we remind people that we do have an absolutely awesome staff person
Right.
who's really good
Mhm.
at, they don't even have to come up with the first draft necessarily, right, Allison? I'm volunteering you here. That if she could even be willing to draft something or draft ideas, and then it goes back and forth a couple times. I mean, that works real well for
Right,
people
I'm
who
happy to be a
don't like to
resource
write.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy to be a resource to generate ideas based on, I mean, what's relevant for all of you in council too, or to help come up with a draft or to help edit a draft,
Right,
whatever's easier for the person
Yeah.
to make it possible.
right.
What
So
what I was gonna say, Ken, just so that it doesn't fall on you always, like, if we don't get volunteers or people outside of this committee who are willing to write, I know Jean Marie's written some, I've written some. Like, I'm fine saying like, okay, I'll be the fall guy in May, June, if we don't get volunteers, so that way it just doesn't all fall on you, Ken. And then if Jean Marie wanted to do that for the summertime, which would be great, then
only if you can write about the beach or the
Yeah.
water or the quiet on Peaks
Yeah.
Island.
I
just don't want-
leave Scarborough for 5 weeks in the summer.
Okay.
Gone.
then Jean Marie can do it in the fall. I'll do it in the summertime. I'm just saying, I just don't want it to fall on you, Ken, to feel like you have to be the one to be the fall guy. So I'm
Right.
happy to, if we just sign up, or if, like, when we talk about the schedule next time, if we want to just distribute some of the months, just so that we know, okay, I'll partner with Allison that month if
Okay,
there's no takers.
yeah, again, let's bring your spreadsheet back up. I think it's a great idea. I think you might get a little pushback on the assignments, but we'll let the council decide on that, right? We'll bring it forward, they decide on it. But we'll get it covered, and I appreciate that. I didn't mean I will, because believe me, I'll be texting people going, you don't want me writing it again, do you? So that's why I really appreciated Jean Marie. Because I'm gonna make the wild assumption that the May leader article is gonna be about the budget. Okay, because we're gonna have come through the first reading. We'll have, the emails will have started. And so it's gonna be the budget. I'm gonna reach out to John Clucci, because I think he did a great job on his e-news on the budget. Very informative, very neutral. See if he's interested in coupling with another county. Remember, this can also be a joint effort, because I think Dawn and I did one once together. This was before we had Allison. Believe me, it took 5 days to get that done, because not everybody likes to write.
Did you,
5 days for a 500-word article.
Ken, did you mean for the April leader article or the May leader article? I
No,
I
April's
heard you say
already
May.
come and gone.
So that one's done, and then the next one's okay.
Yep.
I think for June, if our timeline stays, I think also penciling in the comp plan for that one
It's a
would
good idea.
probably be a good one to pencil in. And I don't know, Jean Marie, like I had told Ken I'd be interested in doing it, but since you and Don have been doing a lot of stuff with long range, if you guys would want to do that, I don't want to volunteer.
Yeah,
you, but I'm happy.
I think we can handle that since we've been involved with it. And I've been involved with it for 3 years, for God's sakes. It's like, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
And don't forget, you've got the charter commissions reporting out. And I assume is downtown committee reporting out by the end of June, or are they longer?
We don't have a date at this point, but they're
Okay.
talking about moving it out. So I'm guessing
Yep.
hopefully not too far off. Like maybe July would be a good
Yeah.
time for downtown.
But just so that we know, these are the things that are coming
It's
up.
good to know
so.
what's coming up, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So actually, remember, I think we're gonna, hopefully, every committee meeting, at least determine the topic as our suggestions. Somebody can, at the council, if they want to do something else is different. But because we have e-news on the first, and then we have the leader on, I don't have the schedule right in front of me. That's why your worksheet would be valuable. Because at times, we've done it, I think, twice. We've taken the last e-news or the first e-news and just tailored it a little bit differently for the leader.
Right.
It kept a consistent message on a topic that was at the front at that time. So that's probably what we'll do on the budget. So we'll do a budget for 5-1 on e-news. And we're gonna do, and we'll probably couple that or leverage that for the leader for, let's say, 5-8, whenever it is. I think it's about 5-8.
Yeah, it's the 7th, but you would submit it the week before, so that would be perfect timing
Right.
for the e-news.
And what we do is just make it a little bit different in case people are on the e-news and read the leader. At least it's not just a cookie stamp. Okay. And I think every opportunity we get, we should be promoting the newsletter. That mainly because of subscriptions, because once we get a good size of the population on that e-news, it's not only the news, it just gives us a vehicle in to lots of things, not unsolicited, but lots of opportunities. So great. I think we're good then. Item number 7, anybody in the public land?
No.
Thank you very much. Item number 8, the future agenda items. We're hoping on the next meeting that we're going to have some flavoring of somebody that's going to, we'll call them a consultant. It could be just somebody that's well-versed, somebody to help us with the survey process. We could probably also discuss any fallout from the action item from the council on this committee driving forward on the community survey. John, you might be able to report to us on what fell out of the finance, if you have a finance. I'm sure you won't get that tonight. I think tonight's just scheduling or something, right? But you'll probably have a finance between now and then. And then again, a standing item I'd like to have is the number 6. Always look at the topics for the next iteration that's between that meeting and the next meeting on the topics, okay? And we'll get that process down to where it becomes a little bit more formalized and again, folding maybe your spreadsheet into it, so.
Mhm.
Yes, Liam?
So I'll be sending out to the entire committee the Word version of the 2000 growth survey that you had sent to me, Ken. You have electronic copies, even if they're in PDF, of the 2010 and 1990?
I sent, yeah, I've got the 2000, I actually have the questions from 2010.
Okay. Do you want to just share that with the balance of the committee so everyone can kind of look at what we've surveyed in the past?
Yeah.
And that way we can come in for an informed discussion on the 10th of May?
Yeah, I'll do that. And then again, that's why I wanted to pull it out of those documents.
Okay.
So we didn't
Okay, that's, yeah, okay.
all of us look at, really, it's about 500 pages of documents, so that's why I was gonna pull it unabridged into an Excel.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Great. So then item number 9, adjournment. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Council Anderson,
yes.
Council Katarina,
Yes.
Council Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Good luck today, John, on the finance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
have
thanks,
fun.
guys.
Yeah.
It'll be a blast.